The moral argument for God's existence claims that God is a more reasonable explanation for the existence of objective morality compared to evolution. This argument states that God's nature is the best objective grounding for morality, where we can say that some actions are morally right and some actions are morally wrong for all people in all places at all times. The moral argument says that if objective moral values and duties exist, God exists. Objective moral values and duties exist, therefore God exists. This argument is saying that if God does not exist, then there's no such thing as objective morality, because evolution can't ground morality in anything objective. In that case, morality just becomes one person's opinion against another person's opinion, and we don't have anything that would allow us to determine if one person's opinion is better or worse than another person's opinion. Some will argue that without God, the need for our species to survive through the process of evolution is enough of a basis for us to determine which actions are morally right and which actions are morally wrong. However, there are a few problems with the idea that evolution can ground morality. The first problem is that if evolution can explain morality, then morality is not actually objective. If morality just evolved over time, then our knowledge about morality would itself just have been a byproduct of random mutation and natural selection, so we don't seem to have good reason to believe this morality to be something that all people in all places at all times ought to obey. In that case, morality could have ended up being different based on how evolution played out, and moral actions would only have instrumental value of helping our species survive, not intrinsic value of something being the right thing to do just because it's the right thing to do. The second objection to the idea that evolution can ground morality is the fact that human morality is different from animal morality. We all treat animal morality as being different from human morality, even though if evolution is true, then we're really just more evolved animals, and it doesn't seem like there should be a difference for the more evolved animals compared to less evolved animals. For example, in the wild, chimpanzees will start wars against each other, and we don't punish chimpanzees, nor do they punish each other, as if they did something that's morally wrong, but we do punish people who start wars against other people unjustly. As Dr. William Lane Craig has said, lions don't murder zebras, and male white sharks don't rape the female when they forcibly populate with them. Craig goes on to explain that there's not a moral dimension to these actions in the animal kingdom. So if God does not exist, then it doesn't seem like we have good reason to believe human morality to be different from the morality of other animals. While certain actions may not be biologically or socially advantageous and over time become taboo, that doesn't do anything to show that they're objectively morally wrong for people to do, just that our society and our species may not subjectively prefer them. In contrast to the evolutionary explanation of morality, in the Christian worldview, people are made in God's image and therefore have a knowledge of good and evil and are held morally accountable by God. Since part of being made in God's image, most theologians believe to include being rational, which allows us to understand the concepts of good and evil in a way that animals don't. The third problem with the evolutionary explanation of morality is that this explanation is actually self-defeating. Evolution itself can't explain why it's good for our species to survive over time, and the idea of survival of the fittest doesn't line up with what we know to be immoral in certain situations. So evolution is not sufficient to ground objective morality. After all, if evolution were true, then it seems like we would be morally justified in killing off weaker members of our population if it helps stronger members to survive, since our main aim in this worldview is just to keep propagating the species. But we know that's not the objectively right thing to do in that situation. If it's true that our belief in morality came about through the process of evolution, which created the human brain, then our moral intuition is not something that we actually ought to follow as obeying an objective standard outside of ourselves, but a random byproduct of evolution which cannot have an objective grounding. However, if there is such a thing as objective moral obligations, then it's only natural to ask what grounds these obligations outside of ourselves. Objective morality cannot be sufficiently explained by the process of evolution, so it is reasonable to believe that God exists as an objective standard of morality outside of ourselves against which we can measure our actions as being objectively morally right and objectively morally wrong. This measurement is similar to how we know a crooked line by comparing it to a straight line. If even one action is objectively morally evil, is a crooked line in this example, then God must exist as an objective standard of morality against which to compare this action to, or as a straight line in this analogy. This basis for objective morality is consistent with the Christian understanding of God, who is the ultimate standard of morality, since morality is grounded in his nature. Related to this, you may be wondering, is something good because God wills it, or does God will something because it's good? Which is a great question that we look at in this video. Please like and subscribe for more videos that share God's love through apologetics, and remember, Jesus loves you.